then proceed to bigger ones. Infinite willpower comes from harnessing the little human will to God's infinite, all-powerful consciousness. Please affirm with me. My will is to do that which is right to do.
My will is to do that which is right to do.
Part all you mountains.
Part all you mountains
That stand in my way.
that stand in my way.
Nothing can stop my progress.
Nothing can stop my progress.
My will is to do that which is right to do.
My will is to do that which is right to do.
Part all you mountains.
Part all you
That
mountains
stand in my way.
that stand in my way.
Nothing can stop my progress.
Nothing can stop my
A
progress.
little more quietly but with deep attention. My will is to do that which is right to do.
My will is to do that which is right to do.
Part all you mountains.
Part all you
That
mountains
stand in my way.
that stand in my way.
Nothing can stop my progress.
Nothing can stop my
And
progress.
now in a whisper, my will is to do that which is right to do.
My will is to do that which is right to do.
Part all you mountains.
Part all you mountains
That stand in my way.
that stand in my way.
Nothing can stop my progress.
Nothing can stop my progress.
Now silently with deep concentration, the spiritual eye. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. And please pray silently with me. O infinite power, I will use my will, but guide thou my will in everything I do, that it reflect thy will. Om Shanti Shanti.
Good morning to all those too that are tuning in to the internet. This is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda entitled, I Demand to Return Home. Impediments beware, flee my path, I am homeward bound. Through the long corridors of time, stumbling often into pits of air, then lifted out by thine unseen hand, I walked painfully. Discouraging darkness, barbed wire fences of habit, stony embankments of indolence, mountains of indifference, oceans of unfaithfulness, sirens of sense longings may stand even now in my path, as if to prevent my onward march to thy palace. But a million kingdoms and sectillions of years of unblemished worldly happiness will never tempt me again to turn away from thee. And this reading is from Conversations with Yogananda. There was an old man, a disciple of the Master's, who wanted to visit his guru in Mount Washington. The Master instructed him, go by streetcar to the bottom of the hill. When you get there, phone up, and I'll have someone drive down and pick you up. The man, however, when he reached the bottom of the hill, decided to walk up to the ashram. He had no idea that the way was so long and so steep. Apart from his age, he was handicapped by a severe pain in his back. He had been walking only a short distance when the pain grew excruciating. He was also exhausted from fatigue. He simply wasn't able to proceed any further. He also, however, couldn't retrace his steps. He sat down by the roadside, helpless. Just then, a car was coming up the hill, stopped beside him, and the driver called him, "Get in!" Gladly, the man accepted. As they continued up the hill, the driver commented, "I don't know what made me come this way. I usually come by another route." When the Master greeted his elderly disciple, he remarked, "I had to work a bit to get that man to come your way." He then placed his hand caressingly on the man's back, and the pain vanished instantly. And so, for us, the ideal is every day, really, to have this joyous expectation, just as this elderly man who that was it. He had no other solution except to sit down by the roadside and no doubt pray. But the Guru was working behind the scenes. And what a sweet thing he said. I had to work a bit in order to get the man to go in a direction that he wasn't accustomed to, because he knew. He was omnipresent. He knew, as all masters know, that there was this need. And so God and the great ones come to rescue us again and again. I want to tell you a fun story that happened years ago. This was before Roma and I were married. And this was up at the seclusion retreat. And we had this beautiful, beautiful area to walk. And so what happens from time to time, it certainly has happened to me, she was walking and didn't realize that it was getting darker and darker. And it was going to be pretty tough to get home. So she hurried her pace and so on. But then it was too dark. She couldn't even see, and it gets very dark there. Couldn't even see the hand before her face. Well, she didn't know what to do, and to compound problems, her sandal broke. You know, and there's animals there in Northern California, so there's an added concern. And sleeping the night there in the woods, and it was a bit of a grave situation. Well, a unique thing happened. It wasn't unique for me, because I was accustomed from time to go to the kitchen and get snacks after the kitchen closed. And it was about 11 o'clock. Well, this worked out perfectly for Roma, because losing her way, she at one point saw a light. Well, that light was coming from the kitchen there at the seclusion retreat, as I was looking for peanut butter or whatever was going to be a nice little snack for me. And so she saw this light, and not knowing exactly where it came from, she started just stumbling through the woods, hoping that this, would be, the solution to her grave situation. And so, what a surprise for me when I saw her, burst through the door with this joy that somehow, some way, God had worked out that, why don't you have a snack at 11 o'clock at night? I don't think I usually would have snacks that late. It's pretty late for me, past my bedtime. But somehow, some way, there it was. And so I got some bonus points even before we were married by saving her from wild animals and God knows what else, at least having to sleep, through the night. Well, God does come to us in many, many different ways. It's a very good thing for us really to look through the day after the day is passed and it's time to call it good. And we're looking at the pillow very fondly because now it's sweet sleep. And to think about the ways that God came through to us. And was it through a happy thought? Was it through an expansion of consciousness? Was it through some touch of God or Guru's hand in our own hearts? And then to thank God for that. And as we get into the habit, and for some it needs to be really a habit that we form, because the bombardment of this world is such that we can forget, our journey. At times it's a little scary to contemplate, but there it is. And we can forget how important it is to be sincere and to be joyful and to be perseverant, all of these things. And yet, when we make a habit of looking for God and Guru's hand in our life, we see it. And it is continuous, absolutely continuous, until we're really in a state of awe. And we don't take it in a way that, this is a routine. We take it really in the right spirit, ideally, that God and the great ones are intimately involved in our lives. As Yogananda demonstrated again and again to the disciples. They would have a conversation and then they would meet up with him. And he would tell them about the conversation they had. And Swami Kriyananda said sometimes it was really embarrassing. Because, as Yogananda said, and demonstrated again and again and again, I know every thought you And so God and the great ones, if they know every single thought we think, then certainly they can persuade us, as Yogananda persuaded this man to go in this other direction. And the man probably thought, well, you know, this is a longer route. I never go this way. What is this? But perhaps there was this feeling inside, blessing of the Master, no doubt. There was maybe some joy. And not knowing, it was a mystery to him, no doubt. But then finding that he was actually able to help an old and elderly man. And so maybe it was a wake-up call for him to use more of his intuition. My dad told me a funny story around intuition. And intuition, of course, is the fruit of meditation, and that's one of the benefits. And so we were living in Manhattan Beach at the time, coastal town in Los Angeles. And we had an upstairs apartment that my dad and I had built over time. And so he thought, now I should go and take out the trash before the trash truck comes. And so that's what he did. He had the intuition to close the door, though, as he was leaving. But I thought, no, I'll be just a minute. It was a short, maybe 1 minute max down the stairs and 1 minute max back up. 2 minutes. So even though the intuition was quite strong, close the door, he didn't. Well, Divine Mother decided to have some fun with him, to teach him a needed lesson of the importance of using one's intuition. A neighborhood dog, which he had never seen before and never saw after. So, who was this dog? Was it commissioned by God? Maybe he lived, 2 miles away. And God said, well, I've got a lesson, and, if you don't mind some more exercise. So the dog went up the stairs. My father didn't even see it. Ran up the stairs, went into, there was, more things for him to disrupt, who knows, cupboards with crackers and so on. He made a mess of the kitchen in that very short time. It was a very short time, just a couple of minutes. And then ran down. All my dad saw was the back end of the dog racing up the street. No doubt the dog knew that, though inherited by God perhaps, he was probably going to get held out by this man as he went into this unknown house. What was my dad's reaction? He laughed. He just loved it because it was such a classic, such an absolute classic. He was told, close the door. And he was so insignificant, he didn't do it. And so he had 10, 15 minutes of cleanup to do after that. And that was perhaps, he didn't tell me, but perhaps at that point in his life, at that time, he was needing to use more intuition. Maybe he was at a crossroads where intuition was absolutely vital. And so this was a little bit of warm-up for him in order to exercise that needed muscle. And so God comes to us in so many ways, whether it's through mischief, which God is very good at doing that too, whether it's through joy, playfulness, or through some serious means. God comes to us and is always coaxing us to get back into the light. And so our project on an ongoing basis is how we can stay alert. Remember when Yogananda would come out onto the stage, this was when he was in his 20s, filling the largest halls in the land throughout America. He would race out onto the stage, and the disciples, were so thrilled as his hair. He had long hair at that time, as he kept all his life, wafting in the self-created breeze. And he would demand, how feels everybody? And there would have to be that very powerful and dynamic response of awake and ready before he would address the audience, because he knew that with this particular group perhaps they wouldn't really be able to drink in what he had to share unless they were on a certain level. Recently we saw a movie there were many movies actually clipped together of Yogananda, and it's thrilling because in the early years we had just one movie that we would see when we would go to the convocation at Lake Shrine down in Los Angeles with everyone from Self-Realization Fellowship. It was a beautiful movie. As a matter of fact, Swami was in it too, of Yogananda dedicating the leg shrine. And so in these various clips, we saw Yogananda, and I think he was maybe late 30s, something like that. And it was a small group there at Mount Washington, out there on the grass. And he was gesturing. You only saw the back of him, but you knew that, you know, the joy in his face and this dynamic willpower to wake people up was so strong. And it wasn't just one gesture. It was one after another, and you thought, my God, if I could have just been a fly on the nearby tree in order to experience that extraordinary exchange of energy. And so, really, as we progress on the spiritual path, it's all about growing awareness. As we become more and more aware, then we miss less of the road signs. And it takes humility, because really, even as spiritual aspirants, it's not a lot of fun to go in one direction, get an intuition, and then have to turn back and retrace our steps. But if we want only to do the right thing, to do our dharma, and to keep our heart open, and to stay in a state of joy, we don't care. We just don't care. All we want to do is the right thing, and that's it. All we want to do is to have God as our companion at all times. We don't want to sway from that, because we have the, no doubt, bitter memory, born of this incarnation and many others, where we didn't want to spend too much time with God and His crazy crowd, because they made us do things that we didn't like to do sometimes. You know, these austerities. And so we found ourselves, again, as Yogananda said, people think they're having fun, but they're not having fun. So we had those incarnations, and no doubt those memories spur us on to do what we can to stay endured, so that we don't have to waste needed time, important time. We don't waste time. We think more and more in terms of, Divine Mother, you know what you've done to me, as the saints have said in so many different ways. You created me. So, since you've created me, you've got to get me out of this mess. And I remember what Yogananda said too, which was a lot of fun. Someone was saying, oh, you know, we should be so reverent of life, and so forth. And that's obviously true, and Yogananda would agree. But in this instance, he said, what? I want to get out of this. I don't want to be thinking about the beauty of life and the beautiful sunset and the trees and all that. And of course, he admired nature greatly. But in this instance, he was in a different mood. And this was the mood of, get me out of here. God, you've created me. Since you have, it's your responsibility. You have to get me out of this Leela. And so this, there's so many incredible poems from Whispers, it's always difficult to find which one. Impediments beware, I'm homeward bound. And in that way, we need to affirm in our own way, or through these wonderful poems from Whispers, whatever we might find, this mantra, I am homeward bound. Knowing that as we are going upon our journey, that God is there. And when we wake up from this dream, we will know, because we will experience, that the God and Gurus were there by our side, and they never left. Ever. 24/7. That's one of the advantages of having enlightened Gurus. They never sleep. And if you find yourself at 1 in the morning, challenge that. And you'll see they're there. Good morning. Good morning, how are you? You think, oh my God, it's true. They don't sleep. And even if they appear to be sleeping, they're not sleeping. They're still conscious, as many disciples found from time to time. The Guru would be snoring even. And somehow, some way, the Guru needed to say something. And he would say, oh, excuse me, you know, so forth. And they would be shocked because they thought perhaps they were going to get away with doing a certain errand, not to disturb him. He needed his rest. And so it's a blessing for us as we grow in humility. It's a blessing for us as we grow in joy. It's a blessing for us as we learn to behave. Yogananda's Guru Sri Yukteswar said very bluntly, learn to behave. It's a blessing for us as we begin to really, really take to heart the gifts that we've been given. And really, if you do an inventory, which no doubt you do, and we should do it very often, we will be absolutely overwhelmed by the gifts that we have been given in this life. Absolutely overwhelmed. And we'll reflect perhaps on Yogananda's words. If you do 10% of what I ask you to do, you'll get there. And remember too, if we get a little discouraged in reading the Gita, out of 1,000, one looks for me. And out of 1,000, one looks for me, one finds me. They go, the heck with it. I think I'll go and just have an ice cream and call it quits. And we think, no, what did the Master say? And he said, our percentages are better. Now he didn't go any further. It'd be nice to say how much better, out of 1,999 and so forth, he didn't say. But good enough, good enough. Our percentages are better. So God bless you for the efforts that you have made up to this point. And remember, as I often like to say, whoever gets up top, please throw down a rope so the rest of us can clamber up. No fair. No fair. Saying, oh, great, and good luck, guys, Throw down that rope. Really, that's the spirit we want. Because we are all one spirit in these many forms. Dedicated not only to our own liberation, but to the liberation of all. Because we are that. We are that spirit. It is in these many, many forms. So, I think with that, we'll have our Aarti and lesson.